Bonjour, you cheese-eating surrender monkeys!
The French President Macron just got back from his little trip to China to hang out with a genocidal dictator, and you know that this guy must be pathetic if even failed ex-British Prime Minister Liz Truss is ripping the shit out of him.
Putin and Xi have made it very clear that they are allies against Western capitalism. That's why I think it was a mistake for Western leaders to visit President Xi and ask for him to intervene in seeking a resolution to the conflict in Ukraine. I believe that was a sign of weakness. It's also why it's wrong for President Macron to suggest that Taiwan is simply something not of direct interest to Europe. I don't agree with that at all. It is of direct interest to Europe, and I think we should be doing all we can to make sure Taiwan has the support it needs to defend itself.
That's right, Macron went to China to meet China's dictator for life, Xi Jinping, or as I like to call him, Winnie the Pooh, Mr. Xiao Xiong Weini. Now, Macron pompously pranced around Beijing with Xi and actually looked like he reveled in all of the attention that he was getting. It really was a pitiful sight to behold to watch this pathetic narcissist smugly walking side by side with a genocidal dictator. Macron clearly has delusions of self-importance, and it seemed like Xi Jinping knew exactly which buttons to press to turn Macron into putty in his hands. Macron strutted up and down the parade with Xi, thinking he was a big shot, but he looked nothing of the sort. He looked like a feeble sycophant who had his head so far up Xi's ass, it's really hard to tell where he ends and Xi begins. Macron spent about 6 hours in total talking with Xi, which is very disturbing. And I feel sorry for the poor translators being stuck in a room with these two bozos for 6 hours. It must have been hell for them. Do you want to know what's even more disturbing? What Macron said in an interview with Politico on his way home from his little ass-kissing visit to China. Check out what he actually said. It's ridiculous. Europe must reduce its dependency on the United States and avoid getting dragged into a confrontation between China and the US over Taiwan. Oh, really? So what do you want to do instead? Do you want to increase your dependency on China? How would that be any better than being dependent on the US? I'd really like to see that. And aren't France and the United States supposed to be allies anyway? Well, I guess not after Macron going to visit Xi like that. He also said the great risk Europe faces is that it gets caught up in crises that are not ours, which prevents it from building its strategic autonomy. The question Europeans need to answer, is it in our interest to accelerate a crisis on Taiwan? No, the worst thing would be to think that we Europeans must become followers of this topic and take our cue from the US agenda and a Chinese overreaction. Chinese overreaction? Bitch, please. Don't you think they're overreacting just a little bit already? What he's basically saying is that when a democratic and free country like Taiwan is getting bullied by an authoritarian country, then other countries that are free and democratic shouldn't come to their aid. Macron is an absolute feeble excuse for a president. Has this guy not learned anything from history class back in the day when Nazi Germany occupied his country during the Second World War? I'm sure his relatives were glad and relieved that somebody like him was not in charge of any of the Allied countries that came and bailed his country's ass out. These ludicrous comments from Macron are extremely insensitive, and they come at a time when China are conducting military drills encircling Taiwan. Warships are facing off on the Taiwan Strait, more fighter jets are making incursions into Taiwan's airspace, and China is publishing crappy looking animations of missiles attacking Taiwan. Look at this animation, it's rubbish. Hey China, the 1970s called and they want their animation back. Now, all I see from China's reaction to Tsai visiting the US is a spoiled little brat throwing a tantrum just like they always do. Apparently, Macron had extensive talks with Xi about Taiwan. Like that'll do any good. And actually, what does this topic of Taiwan have to do with him anyway? Why is this guy an authority on Taiwan all of a sudden? Has he even ever been to Taiwan? Having talks about Taiwan with somebody who is constantly threatening to invade them isn't exactly a productive conversation. So does Macron seriously think that he can persuade or influence a madman like Xi Jinping? A madman who thinks that it's his destiny to invade Taiwan. Maybe that's not a good idea, Macron. Is he seriously this delusional? Obviously, Xi didn't listen to a word Macron said, and apparently he appeared to be visibly annoyed when Macron even mentioned the word Taiwan. This word Taiwan makes Xi Jinping go into ultra rage mode.
No!
Taiwan,
God, please,
Taiwan,
no! No!
Taiwan,
No!
Taiwan.
No!
Xi also tried to downplay his little trip to Russia. You know, that little trip to provide them weapons. I mean, to give them hunting rifles. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, guys. I got a bit of a cough going on there. Yeah, giving them hunting rifles, sure. Macron's actions did not really go down too well in Taiwan, obviously. And he really has just dug himself into a little hole. And now, which I find even more unbelievable, is he's sneakily trying to assure Taiwan that France is on their side. What's he doing? He's just standing there with a knife behind his back, ready to stab Taiwan? Yeah, sure, Macron, you're really on Taiwan's side, right? Apparently, France, according to Macron, upholds the One China policy. Not the One China principle, by the way, because that's just something that China has completely made up. Go and look into it. I'm not going to explain it here. Those are two completely different things. So anyway, he also supports the search for a peaceful resolution to the situation. Macron, the only way to resolve this is for China to just leave Taiwan the fuck alone. Macron doesn't seem to realize that if China successfully invades Taiwan, then this will have a huge impact on France as well. If he really wants to stay out of it, then why the hell is he even going to China and discussing Taiwan in the first place? It doesn't make sense. Would this guy go over to Taiwan and discuss a peaceful resolution with the Taiwanese president? I don't think so. So why is he interfering and going to China? What is this guy's intentions? He's just a complete narcissist who just loves looking at himself in the mirror. So anyway, talking about Taiwan with a guy, Xi Jinping, who has absolutely no credible, lawful claim of ownership of Taiwan is ridiculous, because Taiwan is not a part of communist China and it never will be. In fact, I think Macron's next trip should be to go to Russia so he can kiss Putin's ass as well. Anyway, Xi didn't listen to Macron, right? Because Xi is desperate to invade Taiwan because he wants to create one of those atrocious CCP dictator legacies. You know, the type of legacy that is a genocidal madman's wet dream. Now, Chairman Mao had his dream to completely fuck China up, and he achieved it pretty well. Deng Xiaoping had to massacre a bunch of student protesters for democracy to score his legacy. And Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, well, they did some pretty messed up shit too. But now, Xi needs to surpass his peers and claim his moment of evil dictator glory. He had this idea that this whole zero COVID crap that he introduced would immortalize him, but that failed big time. So now he needs to invade Taiwan more than ever. He's so desperate, but he knows that invading Taiwan won't be a walk in the park. It's not going to be easy at all. Taiwan and the Taiwanese people are not a pushover, and it definitely would be a terrible idea for China to try and invade Taiwan. Taiwan has had a very long time to fortify their country from a possible Chinese invasion, and they are more than prepared. Plus, they have this pretty badass Air Force patch. Check this out. It's awesome. I just love Xiaoxiong Weini getting punched in the face. It's amazing. But even worse for Xi Jinping is he knows that the Taiwanese people don't want anything to do with the Chinese Communist Party. The people of Taiwan's resolve is strong, and they are more than capable of defending themselves with or without Macron's help.